National Federation of State High School Association 2014 rule changes. Rule 1, Section 2, the field. The size of the substitution and table area has been expanded from 10 yards to 20 yards. 2 lines shall be drawn 10 yards on either side of the center line. The scorer's table should be placed at least 6 yards from the sideline at the center line. The area bounded by the sideline, the 2 lines perpendicular to the sideline and the scorer's table, should be referred to as the table area. Only players serving penalty time, players ready to substitute on the fly, officials, official scorers, and timers are allowed in this area. Due to the larger substitution and table area, the coaches and bench areas have been reduced from 20 yards to 15 yards. This larger area for substitutions complements the new substitution rules by allowing more space for players to get on and off the field. It will also allow for better sight lines for table personnel. Rule 1, Section 7, Article 5. Article 5 has been added in 2014 to state that any cross used in the face-off may not have tape on the plastic throw to the head. Officials should be aware of this, and the player must be substituted for if he comes out with an illegally taped stick to face-off. It's recommended that officials meet with the face-off players for both teams prior to the beginning of the contest to inspect their sticks and go over their expectations for face-offs throughout the game. Rule 1, Section 9, Article 1G6, Duplicate Numbers. This rule now states that duplicate numbers on jerseys shall not be permitted on the same team and that legal numbers are from 0 to 99. For example, there may not be a player with the number 1 and 01. Rule 1, Article 10, Section 1H has been added to the rule book to address eye black. The rule now states that it's illegal to have eye shade that is not a solid stroke or include words, numbers, logos, or other symbols within the eye shade. This rule was added to address sportsmanship issues. Rule 1, Article 10, Section 2, Electronic Equipment. This rule now states that electronic equipment may be used during play by coaches, non-playing team members, athletic trainers, or other individuals officially connected to the team. No electronic equipment shall be used to communicate with the 10 on-field players. Rule 2, Section 5, Game Officials. The NFHS now recommends that 3 officials be used to control the game instead of 2. A 4th official, also known as a chief bench official, may also be used. This will allow officials to better control the game and minimize risk to the players on the field. Rule 2, Section 6, Articles 1 and 7, Duties of Game Officials. This rule now clarifies that an official's authority begins when they arrive on the field and ends when they leave the immediate playing facility. It is recommended that officials be on the field at least 20 minutes prior to the scheduled start time to conduct the coach's certification, coin toss, meet with face-off players, and brief the table staff on expectations for the game. After the conclusion of the game, officials should leave the field together. And when they leave the immediate playing facility, their jurisdiction has ended and the score has been approved. Rule 2, Section 10, Article 1. This rule now states that a minimum of 4 legal balls for play should be spaced equidistant from each other 5 yards beyond the end line and 4 on both sidelines. On the bench side, the ball should be placed outside the coach's or bench area and at the scorer's table. As a reminder, all game balls beginning in 2014 must be marked with meets NFHS standard NFHS. Rule 4, Section 4, Article 3, Facing Off. During the face-off in all penalty situations, there must be 4 players in the defensive area and 3 players in the offensive area. The only exception to this is if a team has 3 of its players in the penalty area, a player may come out of its defensive area to take the face-off. If during a face-off a penalty time expires, the player serving may not re-enter play until after possession is gained, or the ball goes across either restraining line, whichever occurs first. This rule now allows for the offended teams to maintain its advantage during a penalty situation. Rule 4, Section 10, Offside. The committee has simplified the offside rule to now state that a team is considered offside when it has more than 6 players in its offensive half of the field, including players in the penalty box, or when they have more than 7 players in its defensive half of the field, including players in the penalty box. This change lets the foul reflect unfair advantage and minimizes risk by allowing officials to count forward, keeping their attention on the active side of the field. Rule 4, Section 12, Offside Enforcement. This section has been modified to address some confusion with enforcement of offside by simplifying the rule. This rule now states that if only one team is offside, a technical foul shall be called against the offending team. If both teams are offside and one team has possession, the player shall be placed onside, and the ball shall be awarded to the team in possession. Or if no team is in possession, the player shall be placed onside, and the ball awarded according to alternate possession. Rule 4, Section 22, Substitution Procedures. The NFHS rules have changed the substitution rules to match other rule codes and improve the pace of play. This rule now states that substitution may take place without the necessity of waiting for suspension of play by an official. Players may enter the field of play from the substitution area under the following conditions. The player must be properly equipped, and the player may not enter the substitution area until his substitution is imminent. He must wait for the player leaving the field to exit first via the substitution area. In addition, he must yield his position in the substitution area to those exiting the field. These substitutions may take place during live play and while play is suspended. During suspended play, substitution may take place at the end of periods, after scoring of a goal, during an injury or equipment timeout, and after a time-serving penalty or team timeout. This new language eliminates the use of a horn for substitution and will simplify the substitution procedures for coaches, players, and officials. Rule 5, Section 3, Article 5, Illegal Body Checks. Article 5 has been added to this rule to reinforce the need to eliminate body checks that target defenseless players. This rule now stipulates that a body check on a player in a defenseless position is a 2 or 3 minute non-releasable penalty. An excessively violent violation of this rule may result in an ejection. This includes, but is not limited to, body checking a player from his blind side, body checking a player who has his head down in an attempt to play a loose ball, or body checking a player whose head is turned away to receive a pass, even if that player turns toward the contact immediately before the body check. These next 3 clips are examples of body checks on defenseless players. In this first play, the defender knocks a pass down, and as the goalie and attackman battle for the ball, watches that same defender comes in and body checks the defenseless attackman to the ground. This is an example of a defenseless player with his head down attempting to pick up a loose ball. In this next play, the attackman is turned to receive a pass from his teammate when the defenseman slides and makes contact with the player. This play is an example of a defenseless player whose head and body is turned to receive a pass. In this last play, the players are competing for a loose ball on the end line when a defenseman comes into the play and makes contact with an opposing player attempting to pick up the ball. These clips are examples of illegal body checks on defenseless players and should be penalized with a 2 to 3 minute non-releasable penalty. Rule 5, Section 4, Hits to the head or neck. Hits to the head and neck continue to be a concern of the game. The committee has increased the penalty for this foul, and any violation of this foul shall result in a 2 to 3 minute non-releasable foul. An excessively violent violation of this rule may also result in an ejection. These next 2 clips demonstrate fouls of this nature. Watch in this first play as the player with the ball releases a shot, and the defender continues to make contact and follows through with his hands to the player's head. This type of contact is now a minimum of 2 minutes. In this next clip, watch as the red player goes after a ground ball near the sideline when the midfielder for white comes in and makes helmet-to-helmet contact. Watch it from this angle and see how the white midfielder lowers and leads with his head before making contact. This could be considered spearing by the defender, but regardless, he made contact with the head, and this play should result in a 2 to 3 minute non-releasable foul. Rule 7, Section 2F, Penalty Time. This rule now specifies that no more than 3 players on a team can be in the penalty area at any time. If more than 3 players on a team are assessed a penalty time to be served concurrently, the additional penalized team members must wait in the bench area immediately next to the scorer's table, but not in the table area until the penalty time of one of the 3 players in the penalty area expires. This rule eliminates the possibility of a team playing with fewer than 7 players because of penalties. If a goal is scored and a player is still waiting in the bench area to serve his penalty, he cannot be released until the time of his penalty has started to elapse. This rule is consistent with other rule codes and will minimize risk for participants while also clarifying the procedure for administration of multiple penalties and substitution. Rule 7, Section 8, Article 2K, Slow Whistle Technique. The NFHS has simplified the procedure for the final 2 minutes of the game in a flag down slow whistle situation. This revision now states that during a flag down situation, the officials will stop play to enforce penalties should a subsequent second defensive foul occur during the final 2 minutes of regulation play, with the team that's ahead possessing the ball in the goal area, unless a scoring play is imminent. This concludes the NFHS rule interpretation section of this video. For additional resources, see other videos on this DVD, including a U.S. Lacrosse video on concussions in lacrosse, 2012 and 2013 U.S. Lacrosse You Make the Call video series, as well as a brief section on new youth rules and points of emphasis for the 2014 season. These resources, among many others for coaches, parents, players, and officials, can also be found at uslacrosse.org.